Hi, this is Louise Cooke with the Genealogy Gems podcast, and I'm here for Family History Expo TV. And I have with me Kristin Hamilton of Research Etc. Is it Research Etc. Inc.?
It is.
Okay, great. And you can find them at ResearchEtcInc.com or at SpiralSearch.com. And we're going to talk a little bit about the various things that you do, because I know that you work in several different areas, don't you?
Absolutely do.
First, let's talk about adoption research. It's funny, I just had somebody the other day ask me about that, and I understand that it really is a very different type of research beyond the average or the typical types of things we're doing on a genealogical basis. Tell us about that.
Well, adoption search is different for private investigators. For genealogy, it's a specialty all unto itself. Basically, you're oftentimes working with someone that you have no name for at all. So if you are adopted yourself and you're looking for your birth parents, you may only know the day you were born and where you were born, but that doesn't mean you know where they were born or what their names are. And so oftentimes we are looking for someone with no name and maybe no age, and we're trying to find a needle in a haystack. So you have to know where to go to look for those records and what to look for and where to get more information. There are various places that hold information that belongs to adoptees, and in most states those records are sealed away. So you have to try to gather as much information as you can. It's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, and it's a lot like genealogy. You just start pulling little threads and getting more and more until you put it all together. And
what kind of specific ways can you help somebody who comes to you and says, that's the dilemma I have, I'm trying to research somebody who is adopted?
If you're adopted and you come to us, we first would direct them to get what is called non-identifying information and direct them to the different areas, the different places that would be holding what is called their non-identifying information. If it's in a state that's open record, obviously they can get their birth records from the Vital Statistics Office. If it's a closed record state, which most of them are, we would be able to help them determine who would have different bits of information on them, if it's a hospital or if those records are even available, and where to go. Then they would come to us once they have that, and we would start using different sources that we have available to us as private investigators, as well as our in-house resources, which are a lot of records that we have that you may or may not be able to find at a library. And we start just taking those clues and putting the puzzle together.
And that's nice that you kind of have a checklist so they can go out and do some of their own basic research, which pretty much anybody can do. You just have to have the checklist. And that way they can really utilize you for the tough stuff, right?
That's right. And a lot of people want to be involved in their search.
Sure.
So because it is such a personal thing, we've had people call and say, look, just take care of it. And then we have people who really want to become involved, or who have been so involved and they've gotten to a point where they can't go any further without us. And that's where we come in. We do want to help people save money, and they can save money by doing their own footwork first and coming to us with what they've got, and we will take that and work with it from there.
And I know a wonderful resource you have here is your book. It's called Back to the Beginning. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Back to the Beginning is a compilation of short stories from our case files. They are remarkable true stories of adoption searches and reunions from the case files of Research Etc. They are some of our favorite stories, starting at beginning and through the end to reunion. They're all different kinds. There are happy reunions. There are no reunions, sadly, sometimes, and there are some not so happy. And it's a book that we wanted to share to give people who are interested in either research or adoption issues an idea of what can happen when you open that door.
That's what really struck me about the book. Was you might think, oh, well, this isn't going to teach me step by step how to do it, but really, in a way, you kind of have to have a sense of what are you getting into. And I would think a book like this would not only give you hope and inspiration, but could also help with establishing some realistic expectations, so that no matter what the outcome, you know that you've given it your best shot.
That's right, and that is why we wrote this book. So many times when a client comes to us, we end up telling them stories, because nobody has experience in this.
Exactly.
If you're adopted,
how many times can you be
you're
adopted?
generally
right?
only adopted once. We've had people who've been adopted more than once, but generally you do one search. And so a lot of times people will go on the internet and start reading stories and things, and those can be very frightening. And basically we advise people just to stay off of that because some of them can be scary.
Yeah.
And every person's experience is different, so it's hard to say how a search is going to turn out. We can't guarantee that it's just going to be wonderful, but we give people hope, and that's what we want, is at least this is your truth. Whatever it turns out to be, it is yours.
And the benefit they have is that they may only have one adoption and one search, but you've done
done many.
And
We've
so they
reunited
can tap into
over
that.
1,000 people. So
Well, I know that you do some other things here as well, and I want to talk a little bit real quickly about Spiral Search. These are CDs, is it city directories?
There's
is that
city
right?
directories and telephone directories on CD and DVD. And we developed this product, basically, it was a need. So many times when you're doing an adoption search, you may know from the non-identifying information we talked about, you may know maybe your birth mother's first name, for instance. It may be Roberta. Well, if you were in Manhattan, New York in 1967, and that's where you were born, and you have a good idea that, Roberta was living in Manhattan at that time, you can take this old telephone book, and instead of reading it line by line for every Roberta in the book, you can pop this into your computer. It's an actual scanned book. The pages are actually scanned in there. You can go page by page, or you can just put Roberta into the search engine, and it will go through in a matter of anywhere from seconds to minutes, depending on how fast your computer is and how big the book is, and literally pull up every highlighted instance of the word Roberta. Maybe you know who you're looking for owned a toy store. Mm-hmm. Well, with white pages or a city directory, you'd have to know the name of that toy store, but you could probably guess that the word toy is in the title. Pop in the word toy, it's going to bring up every instance throughout the book, thousands of pages in just mere minutes. If you want to know your old neighbors on Oak Street, pop in Oak.
What an ideal resource, because it is tapping into some of those known facts, as you were talking about. There's so many things that we can't know, but anything from an occupation to a location, and perhaps you're not sure, but you could tap into some neighbors.
You can.
And see and follow those lines and see what connections there might be.
Sometimes it pulls up a middle initial that you need, especially when you're working with a common name.
Right.
If you're working with Mary Smith and you know she lived, in a certain area of town, you start pulling up the Mary Smiths, you might just hit on her middle name. If it's a city directory, you might pull up her husband's name as well and what he did for a living. So there's all kinds of information that these can help. One little clue solve your case.
Well, it's fascinating work that you do.
us.
I bet. So it's ResearchEtcInc, and they can find you also at spiralsearch.com. Kristin, thank you so much for meeting with me today and joining us here on Family History Expo TV.
Such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.